Tonight's subject of conversation is an EP from 2021 released by the young Romanian band Grohot, entitled Creatio ex Nihilo, meaning creation out of nothing. And as you can see in the booklet, it's a very old school Darkthronian kind of take. And nowadays in 2023 it was released in physical format as well. And here you can see the old cover. This is not the initial cover. The initial cover was relegated to the booklet with the knight called Negru Voievod, or the black medieval ruler, and also similarity between this black medieval ruler and the knight called Amantes from Codex Lugubrum, describing the entity called the separator or il separatio. Anyways, the initial cover was put in the booklet, and also we have some very nice lyrics and 5 tracks. The track that basically sets the atmosphere and the tone of the entire release, called Il Separatio, or the separator. And we all know the myth of the separator from Codex Lugubrum. It was already explained in the review that I have done for Acral Necrosis and for Marcosias, and I will leave the link for that review in the description below. The second song is Jinn. The third song is Creatio ex Nihilo, which also gives the title to the entire EP. And we also have Noaptea Moroiului, or the night of the, let's say, undead or vampire, and finally the black voivod, or the black medieval ruler. And this is the collection of 5 songs that you can find in here, with of course a very old school, again, Darkthrone like design of the entire material. Again, Grohot. And of course the CD, or the release in question. So after 2 years the band decided to bring it onto the market into a physical format as well, and it's a very welcome addition to every collector's corner. And this is kind of a rarity because it is released in the initial lineup of the band, with Robert Apostoli on the guitar, who is also the leader of this project, with Răzvan Gabor on bass and on drums. So of course, if you see the same person doing the bass and the drums, you realize that this is only for now it's only a studio project and not a live project, because nobody can play live both the bass and the drums. And finally with Bogdan Andone on the vocals. So as I said, this is a rarity, because this is the initial lineup of the band. Nowadays the new lineup is a different one. It has changed completely, and we have a new drummer, a lady, and a new vocalist, which is Octav Medici from Acral Necrosis. And nowadays the band sounds radically different from this EP, but still it was a very nice gesture of courtesy from the band to also provide, although after 2 years, physical variant of the 2021 release, which was also the debut of Grohot from Comănești. Now, starting with the name of this project, which is called Grohot, as I had the interview with Robert Apostoli on this very channel. Unfortunately, the interview is in Romanian, and I will kind of take a few ideas out of that material. As the leader of the project, Robert Apostoli, said during the interview, the name of the band comes from a very small mountain stream that in his area, that is Bacău County, came from the mountains and invaded a church and left that church into ruins, destroying the church with, you know, a lot of boulders and gravel and sediments brought from high up in the mountains by some rapid streams, and brought down the torrent valley, and basically this is what happens during periods of heavy rains and floodings. We have small mountain streams in rapid undercurrents or superior currents down the torrent valleys, and somehow they flood the small settlements behind them, and this is what happened. So it kind of descended heavily upon a church and left the church into ruins, and probably the young musician in here called Robert Apostoliou witnessed this event or the after show of those events, and he was so impressed by the name of that small rapid mountain stream that he decided to, you know, have a full black metal project named after those events. Now we are talking here about a very young Romanian band, this Grohot band, and it's very important to try to help the young musicians, you know, gain more confidence in themselves, and why not gain more personality, because black metal has always been about personality and confrontational flavor. And of course everybody says that, you know, we need to support the young artists and young personalities, but nobody really does it. And you know, words are words and facts are facts. So tonight, unfortunately, this shooting is taking place very late into the night. So tonight we are going to try to highlight some of the main achievements that, as I said, this very young musician Robert Apostoliou with his colleagues, once again the previous lineup of the band, Andone Bogdan on the vocals and Gabor Răzvan on the bass and on the drums, did on this first EP, which is once again a highly appreciated piece of extreme metal in Romania. Now, starting from the very description of the name of the project, which is Grohot. Now, Grohot is a name that exists in the official Romanian dictionary, where it designates those sounds made by I would say angry male pigs or male boars. They are called grunts into English, or more famously growls. Yes, it's about the famous death metal growls. So this is the literal translation of Grohot, and also Grohot can also come from the word grohotish in Romanian. I don't know if there is a literal English translation from grohotish, but to try to have an approximate translation of this Romanian word grohotish, which pretty much has to do with what happened with that small rapid mountain stream that invaded the church. So grohotish means an accumulation of rocks, and of rocks of all sizes, and they are being brought down by rapid mountain streams along with other rocky sediments, or specifically an accumulation of angular rock fragments of various sizes, resulting from the, you know, disintegration of mountain rocks, and mountain rocks that are rolled down from mountains or brought down by the melting of glaciers, or usually brought down in a heavy manner by rapid mountain streams, when those rapid mountain streams get out of their normal riverbeds. In regards to Grohot, we should start by dotting the I's and by crossing the T's. First and foremost, and say that the main point of attraction in regards to Grohot in general, but in regards to Creatio ex Nihilo in particular, the main point of attraction in regards to Grohot, the muscularity, if you want, or the power of this music, is to be found in the quality of the guitar work. And the fact that when we are talking about Grohot, everything needs to be guitar related is something that perhaps was never really stated in a clear manner up to this point, because all the discussions about Grohot revolved around the old school black metal up and down. But you know, old school black metal is somehow a confusing term nowadays, because it is a term that can actually designate very many things. So yes, above all, here we are dealing with a very talented guitar player called Robert Apostoliou, and everything in this music of Grohot is primarily about guitar work, and actually about some quite some exquisite guitar constructions and guitar moments and guitar messages that have, you know, that particular quality of shaping one's musical taste when it comes to the expansive, prominent and influential textures and tones of the genre. Of course, the genre here being black metal, or if you want, old school black metal. And here you find those kind of riffs and other types of guitar constructions that know how to be confrontational when needed or when required, and that know how to use some very neat drum effects to their advantage, and that know how to move slowly but also in an extremely discernible manner through the shifts of the songs and with subtle effects. And this kind of subtle effects are found throughout the whole music, and the guitars are kind of doing this while constantly giving another and yet another expression to the same musical ambition. Personally, when it comes to black metal, I'm always looking for a specific thing, and personally, when it comes to black metal, I am always looking for confrontational moments, and I listen to the genre especially for those confrontational moments, and for those moments in black metal that kind of encourage the listener to become confrontational himself. And confrontation in this case of Creatio ex Nihilo is best expressed through accelerations, or through moments of accelerations, or at the level of those hate-filled accelerations. Now, guitar accelerations that kind of know how to offer a very deep and cutting edge that penetrates deeply into that feeling of being wide awake, because this is a music about being wide awake when you are listening to it, about those acceleration moments that know how to prevent the drums from becoming overpowering, know how to prevent the drums from becoming overpowering while keeping the bass lines audible. And also about those acceleration moments that kind of have that unique knowledge about how to harvest in themselves, or how to join in themselves, the onomatopoeic values of the voice, those famous onomatopoeic values of the black metal vocal styles. Onomatopoeic means, of course, valorizing some sounds from nature and bringing them into some human vocals with extremely organic textures. And as I said again on Creatio ex Nihilo, the guitars are those who build the songs, are those who are capable of some fairly hypnotic passages while avoiding minimalism, and the guitars also step outside of themselves a lot in order to make sure that they remain that precious ferment of incitement for the atmosphere. So once again, in here the guitars are kind of in the habit of stepping outside themselves with the purpose of making sure that they remain that precious ferment of incitement for the atmosphere. So in Romanian, chitarele ies puțin din sfera lor pentru a se asigura că rămân acel ferment prețios al sentimentului acela de exaltare din atmosfera tipică unui album de old school black metal. And when the guitars are crossing the border into fuzzy or into sludgy territories, they do it in order to better lead you or to better show you the way into a world of progressive metallic connections, and also to better highlight those explorative values which do not allow for the flames of the genre, of the black metal genre, to die quickly. And the guitars would often inject strange and engaging, I would say, echoes in the mix, and again they are conceived in such a way so as to force some deep and clear drum beats to amplify or accentuate the riffs and the solos. And we can say that if the guitars can do such a thing, you know, they can force some deep and some clear drum beats to further amplify or to further accentuate the riffs and the guitar solos, we can say that in the case of Creatio x Nihilo, we are kind of, you know, talking about total subordination of the drums to the reign of the guitars. But yes, kind of everything here is designed so as to give more power and more resonance and more eerie flair to the guitar work, to help the guitars gain more foundation and to help the guitars gain more foundation in the tempo, and to help the guitar instill and intensify the establishment that they aim at or that they aim towards, to help the guitars remain straightforward and expressive in their reserved personality, because once again the guitars here are straightforward, are very expressive, but they are also very expressive in the sense of a very reserved personality, which is once again the personality of Robert Apostoliou. But yeah, all the other instruments are kind of there to help the guitars gain more power, gain more resonance, gain more flair, that eerie flair, and also gain more foundation in the tempo, and better instill and better establish their self in their intensified establishment. So basically we can say that the guitar riffs are heightened by the drums and made more suggestive by the bass lines. So yeah, the guitar riffs are heightened by the drums and made more suggestive by the bass lines. In Romanian, because this is also a very expressive way of saying things, în ceea ce privește Grohot este vorba de foarte multă chităreală. Și toate celelalte elemente construiesc așa un fundament cât mai absorbant, cât mai absorbing și un fundament cât mai absorbing și cât mai eficient pentru părțile de chitară. And the final result of all these kind of things is to be seen in, I would say, in unexpected outbursts of young, dark energy, in some stylish deviations that shine with enough surprising twists and turns, especially in the area of acceleration and of solos, as I said. And the final result is that in this way, this small CD opens a penetrating new perspective within which things remain both epic and menacing, within which the meaning of everything that is displayed in here, the meaning remains a direct meaning. So we are not kind of talking about metaphors or allegories, but the guitars are made in such a way for the meaning to remain a direct meaning. Direct meaning, though kind of a cold and abstract meaning, I would also say. A meaning within which the continuations or the links between musical fragments flesh out properly. So the links or the continuations, they manage to reach the surface or flesh out in a proper manner. And the vocals in this context, let's say the virtue of the vocals is that they manage to stay on the track every time, and the rhythmic passages do not sound phoned in Romanian. Părțile ritmice nu sună deloc telefonate, adică ușor de anticipat. They do not sound phoned in. That means they are kind of hard to anticipate. And also the release, Creatio ex Nihilo, has an immersive and unwavering focus on maintaining a single style of approach within the paradigm of old school black metal. They have a focus on linking in a singular course or in a singular mechanism some cold, vast swells of the void to their respective corresponding interrogations on emptiness. So yeah, once again, there is an immersive and unwavering focus on maintaining a single style of approach within the paradigm of old school black metal, and there is also a focus on linking or on joining in a singular course or in a singular mechanism two type of things. They are being joined in a singular course or in a singular mechanism. So one type are those vast cold swells of the void, and this kind of vast and cold swells of the void are linked in a singular manner to their corresponding interrogations on emptiness. The whole album or EP is kind of linked, or the songs are linked, and the ideas and the executions are linked by a single train of thought, and that is why it wrestles successfully with its own awkwardness. And its own awkwardness means that the CD stays in a weird interval between the more solid tonalities or sounds and the frailer or the more distorted tones that is in a very nice limbo between Burzum and Emperor, and it does so by grace of a very gifted riff maker, which is Robert Apostoliu, and also by means of an increasingly tactical use of its ingredients. Ingredients here meaning guitar signatures and oral statements from the area of Nachtmusik or night music. So basically the main ingredients in the case of Creatio ex Nihilo are the guitar signatures and also some oral statements for personal aura, oral statements that come from this area of the music of the night, or in German, Nachtmusik. So if we are to conclude a little bit with Creatio ex Nihilo, we could say that this is a small release driven by a Burzumish ambition, meaning that the guitars remain very logical all the time, and pseudo thrash metal riffs are incredibly effective in their simplicity, and most importantly, the guitars behave like amplifiers. This is something I would say kind of unique to Grohot. It's a music in which the guitars behave like amplifiers, and the guitars kind of continue and amplify the sound of the keyboards, and this is something that happens just like in Burzum. You know, some songs start with the keyboards, but afterwards the guitars imitate the keyboards, the keyboard line with a tremolo riff or something like that, and with other type of deviations and guitar constructions that resemble a little bit that kind of a thrash metal will to add insult to the injury, to say it like this. But anyway, the main point is that the songs start with a melodic line on the keyboard and on the keyboards, and after that the guitars kind of continue that musical line started on the keyboards, and they kind of do it with a tremolo riff, and also with some pseudo thrash metal riffs thrash metal riffs with a thrash metal attitude and will to add insult to injury, kind of a thrash metal attitude in this kind of early black metal riffs that continue some keyboard lines. Apart from Burzum or Burzum, there are also some very subtle dark funeral epics, and further on the guitarist knows perfectly how to perfect some effects in the style of Emperor and even make them feel more comfortable. Now, in the end, I could say that Creatio ex Nihilo, it kind of maintains the Burzum atmosphere, especially those booming, reverb-drenched beats, but it also ventures wholeheartedly into Emperor, as in here, in the case of Emperor influences, the unknown element comes from the execution and from nothing else. From the execution and also from structural and procedural techniques that kind of allow the musician to obtain a stable release and to really up his game in regards to Emperor. So when you put it all in the execution, you kind of up your game in regards to Emperor, although you maintain some sort of a Burzum-like, let's say, semi-foundation. Stable release in the sense that the guitarist's ultimate goal is to strip down other elements and basically make only the skeleton and the main ideas stand out with clarity. So when you leave only the skeleton and you kind of have this kind of a technique to strip down all the other elements and make only the skeleton shine, I can actually say that we are talking about some thriving old bones of old school black metal, some thriving bare bones of black metal pulled out fleshlessly with only holograms of cemetery vistas, because of course it is a lot about cemetery. It's a lot about some cemetery vistas or cemetery sites, holograms of cemetery vistas that are there to abstractly suggest the past, also abstract presence of some sort of frozen and decayed rotten flesh, but again it is about some sort of a holograms of past frozen and decayed rotten flesh in the shape of some cemetery vistas. So yes, Mr. Robert Apostoliou is kind of a brainchild of Burzum and of Emperor, but one who eventually plays the Emperor card to its full potential, and I would say a guitarist that uses Burzum only as some sort of a protecting and assuring hologram, but the real stake in here is to be found in the execution and in Emperor influences. And because this music is not really an incursion or a journey into consciousness, or it's not the kind of music that has a lot to do with contemplation, and as such it kind of uses absolutely no hybridization, no melodramatic overtones, and there is not a iota of extravagance in here, and no real demented savagery, and no groove thick overlayering. So yeah, there is no hybridization, there is no because it's not a music that encourages some sort of an incursion into consciousness or into contemplation. We find in here no hybridization, no melodramatic overtones, not a iota of extravaganza, as I said, no real demented savage moments of savagery, and not really a groove thick or kind of atmosphere resulting from the thickness of grooves or from over layering this music. I would say that even on the contrary, here we are talking about an extremely spacious and airy music, of technical virtuosity, which kind of stands out through the refinement of some engineering constructions and of some executions that are capable of handling without any problems the levels of finesse and levels of subtleties that kind of made emperor stand out in its times. So yeah, this is the work of a man who plays all his cards on the improvement and on the enhancement and on beautifying his executions on the guitar, and also plays all his cards on the complex build-ups of his guitar. The real staking here is not to be found in metaphors or in any kind of obsessive manic extrapolations or aggravations. It's all in the technical sides. It's all in improving the technical aspects, and it's all in enhancing those special technical effects. We are kind of talking about an engineer of the guitar, a person who puts on all of his cards on the execution as such, and not so much on the, you know, moments of aggravation or of extrapolation through demented feelings, or does not try to gain anything by pushing the feelings to an extreme, but tries to gain everything by pushing the guitar technicalities into the most subtle possible corners, where he by doing things in this way, he kind of gains some unique and special effects. Now, talking about the 5 songs. The best song on this one is the 4th song, in my opinion, which is definitely the best song on Creatio ex Nihilo, is the 4th song called Noaptea Moroiului, the Night of the Undead. Let us translate it like this. Now, why am I saying that it's the best song? Because it is a song that combines in the most unique manner some Burzum or some Burzum influences with some Emperor influences, or is the song that manages to keep the Burzumish essence pure, and then in almost subtle or almost unnoticeable moments to turn it into an Emperor mastery of guitar technicalities. As far as the message of the song The Night of the Undead or Noaptea Moroiului is concerned, let us try a little bit of poetry in here and say that, you know, in the logic of this song, the night is about some concentrations of power. It is about a mysterious, unknown or inaccessible tutelage. It is about a deep and sacred sense of wonder. And there are no sounds in nature like the sounds of a winter night, for example, and there are because the sounds of the winter night are the sounds of loneliness, and the sounds of that kind of loneliness that secretly possesses you. And every trace of yesterday cannot really survive in the hours of the night. And at night or during the night, the air is so clean that the dead one, the undead, the vampire, the moroi, the strigoi, the air is so clean that the undead can come out of the grave or come out from his place, which is 6 feet under, can rise to the surface and breathe, because the air, as I said, is extremely clear during the nighttime. And also at night shines the inner sun of a person, and moroi, from the Noaptea Moroiului song, moroi in Romanian means some sort of a vampire or an undead, or a person that did not rot, or the unrotten one, the unrotten dead. And this kind of an unrotten dead entity kind of has the habit in the Romanian folklore to visit during the hours of the night the house where he was born, to drink the blood of the cows and to frighten and terrorize his former relatives. But mostly moroi has to do with this kind of obsessive homecoming. Even after you die, you have this obsessive compulsion to go back home. So yeah, moroi, in my opinion, has to do with this kind of a sense of an obsessive homecoming. The obsessive homecoming of a relentless dead person, and it is there when it manages to go back home and to come out of the ground and breathe that fresh air of the night, and manages to go back to his former house, or to the house where he was born. There he manages to steal the vital energy of a person. But since, you know, this kind of a vital energy of a person is something very different from person to person, or since the vital energy of a person differs from person to person, or since this vital energy means totally different things to different people, ultimately being visited by the moroi equals not being able to be yourself anymore. So yeah, not feeling at home, not being able to be yourself anymore when you are under the influence of this undead presence called in the Romanian folklore moroi. Yes, and not being able to be yourself means that you can no longer recognize familiar things, the places, both the physical and the metaphysical places that you used to know now are unfamiliar and hostile to you. So it is like having your own sacred inner self invaded into some special way. So yeah, it's like having your sacred inner self invaded in a very special and inexorable way. The first song, the song that opens up the CD, called Il Separatio, or the Separator, I would say it is a very technical and perhaps a more user-friendly revival of the song Separator from Acral Necrosis, or a more you know, approachable take on Acral Necrosis, or a more familiar resuming of the song Separator from Acral Necrosis. And basically Robert Apostoliu was highly influenced on Creatio ex Nihilo by the album called Underlight by Acral Necrosis, which also has the song called Separator as the first song on the release. And basically we can talk about let's say a continuation between what Acral Necrosis did on Underlight, and we have this kind of a continuation on Creatio ex Nihilo under the denomination called Il Separatio, or Separator. So it's a different variant of the song from Acral Necrosis. Acral Necrosis being also a band that plays a very beautiful and technical kind of black and thrash metal, but a little bit of a more insane or manic level, especially at the level of vocals and drums and even bass lines. So Acral Necrosis is one of the most savage black metal acts in Romania. Grohot kind of continues what Acral Necrosis did on Underlight with the song Separator, on the song called Il Separatio, but it does it in a much more, as I said, user-friendly, peaceful, or technically oriented kind of a style. So if Separator from Acral Necrosis was mainly focused on moments of manic insanity and deep, visceral, organic moments of archaic hatred, Il Separatio from Grohot goes much more into the technical side, into technical innovations that have to do with executions, and they do it in a much more user-friendly or accessible way. But this does not mean that the two songs have a similar structure or something like this, nor it is about the case of a worship band or anything like this. It's just a totally different vision on the very same subject, which is that of the entity of Separator, or Il Separatio. And as I said, we already explained this with Acral Necrosis on the analysis that we did for the split called Intersections with Codex Lugubrum and that mysterious entity called the Separator, or Il Separatio, who makes both the angels and the demons tremble, and whose story is kind of bound to the story of a medieval knight called Amantes. And in this case, you can see a representation of both Amantes and the Negru Voivod, or the black medieval ruler, in here. So kind of more, as I said, accessible take on the myth of the separator. Now, what is the minus of this release? Is there any minus? Yes, there is, in my humble opinion, kind of a big minus. And the name of that minus is the second song called Jinn. It might have been an not almost perfect, but very and extremely good release if it hadn't been for this second song, Jinn, which is, in my humble opinion, totally out of place on this particular CD. It has nothing to do with the general message of the EP, with the general atmosphere, or with the general style in executions. It is something out of place, in my humble opinion. Jinn also has some infantile lyrics, which I really did not enjoy, and apart from it, I could in no way relate to this song, or get inside the tempo of this song, or kind of place myself in the direction or in the sense of this song, or feel this song in any way. To me, it seems something that has to do with various quarter of ideas, or with various fractal ideas, with various semi ideas, that is, parts of ideas that do not really cohere in any way, that do not really stand together in any way, and that cannot really, the guitar executions, the lyrics, or the general rhythmic section cannot really make any kind of a powerful impression in any way. So yeah, I could not feel the god, or the demonic, or the confrontational presence on this second song called Jinn, and I could not feel the connection to the rest of the disc. But otherwise, with the exception of this big minus called Jinn, it is an extremely well achieved technical release, great concept and great execution, and also a great storyline behind the whole concept used in here. The final mark in here, it could have been a higher mark if it hadn't been for Jinn, but the final mark in the case of the EP Creatio ex Nihilo is a solid 8.5, maybe even a 9. Without Jinn, it could have been a 9.5, but I am sure that the next release from Grohot, which we will see very soon, I hope, will be much more focused on extreme metal moments and extreme moments of acceleration. Thank you so much, and sorry for the tired timbre of my voice, but it's very late at night. But once again, Creatio ex Nihilo, one of the very, very few copies that Robert Apostoli brought to the market. And if I remember correctly, when I saw this one, yeah, I am the happy possessor of an autographed copy of this release, so it has a original signature from the musician as well, so I am very proud to have it. Yes, final mark 8.5, maybe even a 9, and a big plus for the Romanian scene and for the black metal scene in Romania, and also a person who is capable to continue the tradition of a rather young band, which is called Acral Necrosis from Bucharest. So we have a solid new wave of old school black metal here in Romania. How nice it is to be able to say such a thing. We have a solid new wave of old school black metal bands here in Romania, bands that already pay highly technical and highly imaginative tributes to one another. Thank you so much and have a great night.